Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Spoiler season has officially started for Wilds of Eldraine, the new standard set that'll be coming out at the beginning of September. They are doing on the Wizards Twitch channel overview, kind of an initial spoiler of the set. They are flying through. Becca Scott was doing a nice job narrating, but cards were flying all over the place, very hard to read quickly. So curating a bunch of spoilers that came out early on, and just kind of looking at what's to come for this new standard set. And we're going to start off, the kind of storyline is there's three witches, and we're going to start with those. So there's Agatha, Vial of the Cauldron, a Gruul 2-mana legendary creature as a 1/1. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost X less, where X is Agatha Vial's power. This effect cannot reduce it less than 1, so you can't basically cheat it to pay 0 mana. And for 6 mana, other creatures you control get +1 trample and haste. So an interesting kind of combination of stats there. We'll go look at the full arts because they're very nice art in this set. Eldraine's one of my favorite art directions. We have Arita, the Charmed Apple, 3 mana, 2/4 legendary creature. Each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can attack you or a planeswalker you control. So almost like passivism of style effects whenever you enchant them. And there's these like token kind of enchantment aura things that come in this set that you can kind of buff or reduce like the power. So there's ways to kind of do that. Beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of auras. So you can kind of build this almost as like a pillow fort deck, just kind of build stacks, and your win con is just kind of the drain while you lock them out from attacking and blocking. We then look at Hilda, the Icy Crown, 2 mana and 2 Azorius, so 4 mana legendary creature. Whenever you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, you may pay 1. When you do, choose 1. You create a 4/4 elemental, you put a 1/1 on each creature you control, or you scry 2 and draw a card. So anything like tap style effects, Icy Manipulator style effects, kind of on theme with the Icy Crown, gets you a whole bunch of value in that respect. We'll then jump over. We have a series of dual color creature lands. So we had like Shambling Ghast in the past. Now we're going to have Relentless Cottage. So these lands enter tapped always. They will provide 2 colors, and in this case, Relentless Cottage for 4 mana becomes a 4/4 horror creature until the end of turn. Whenever it attacks, you create a food token and you exile a card from a graveyard. So kind of the Hive of the Eye Tyrant without the menace, but gives you some food, and food is going to be an overarching theme of the set. We then look at Sir Ginger, the Meal Ender, this angry cookie from the Last of Eldraines. We had Garruk that took out their partner, and now we have the legendary artifact creature, 2 mana, 3/1. It has trample, hexproof, and haste as long as opponent controls a planeswalker looking to take revenge on Garruk. Whenever another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So this could be food tokens, kind of any small artifacts, and then you can sacrifice it and pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, and gain life equal to its power. This could even work in like an Anvil deck where you're naturally sacrificing artifacts to have just a really big creature in that respect. Moving on, so we have 2 of the adventure creatures. So Frolicking Familiar is a kind of whatever. It is an Otter Wizard, really cool art, 3 mana. You can either do Blow Off Steam, which just deals a damage to a permanent, and then it's a flying 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +1/1 on the turn. But this is the card I really want to highlight, and I think this, like early on, this is probably the best card in the set. If it's anything like Goldspan Dragon, it's going to be a very annoying threat. So 4 mana gives you a flying trample. Whenever it attacks, you create a treasure token, 4/4. Really good stats on its own. Then you also have the Expensive Taste Adventure half, where you can exile the top 2 cards of opponent's library face down. You may look and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. Notably, play not cast, so you can also take their lands. Treasure token fixes your mana. So this clause does not say cast as though it was any color, so you do need the treasure or the on-color lands to be able to cast it. But we've seen Goldspan Dragon, these stats kind of take over. Goldspan did have the ability, if it was targeted, as well as doubling the mana, but this is a mana lower. It has a trample, which could be all really reasonable effects in the format. We then look at Beseech the Mirror. So this card's probably going to be played in like Broken Legacy, like Ad Nauseam, Storm, Black Ritual style effects. So 4 mana, bargain. You can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token you control. So any of like the Lotus Petals, anything of that nature in like Legacy. You have Mishra's Bauble that can be sacrificed. And then, so you search your library for a card, exile it face down and then shuffle. If the spell was bargained, you may cast that card without paying its mana if its mana value is 4 or less, and then put the exile card in your hand if it wasn't. So this is kind of like a demonic tutor that you can cast stuff for free by hitting like a cheap artifact to begin with. So I don't think this is being played in any fair manner. We then look at the Angry Goose, Gilded Goose's mom. So Simic and an X flying goose mother enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create half X food tokens rounded up. Whenever the goose attacks, you may sack a food. If you do, draw a card. So kind of an alternate casting cost to like Hydroid Krasis. So Hydroid Krasis get the immediate card draw. This kind of plays more to the board and lets you draw cards over a number of turns. Does require you to attack, but this can be a fairly large, evasive creature perhaps. Moving over, so Will and Rowan have split. They are no longer partnered in the same cards, and they're taking different paths. So we have the Azorius and the Rakdos. So Will, Scion of Peace, 3 mana, 2/4 Vigilance, and then you can tap it. Spells you cast this turn that are white or blue cost X less, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. And then we have Rowan, very kind of similar effects. 3 mana in Rakdos for a 4/2 menace. Spells you cast this turn that are black or red cost X less, where X is the amount of life you've lost this turn. So one's kind of going the angry route, one's going the peaceful route. I think the Vigilance is more reasonable on this because you can attack and then also get the ability. Depends on what life loss. I don't know how well these two cards are going to be playing in, but welcome to see. I think they're reasonable stat lines on their own. We then look at Kellen, the Fey-Blooded. So this is one of the overarching story cards that they're highlighting. 3 mana, 2/2 adventure. So you have Brithbright Bloom. Search your library for an aura or equipment card. Reveal, put it into your hand and shuffle. It has double strike, and other creatures you control get +1/0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellen. So you can make Kellen bigger, and then it makes your other creatures bigger as well. This is maybe something that can play into like Explorer, Historic, in terms of hammer time, finding your hammers or your key cards there. In Historic, it doesn't mean you're off Lurrus, but in Explorer, you can maybe find that as a more consistent way for the combo. And then we have a uncommon that probably you'll see quite a bit of play. So Torch the Tower, it's basically a shock for planeswalkers or creatures, and then if it's bargained, if you sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token, it deals 3 damage to that permanent and you scry, and then it also exiles. So kind of the Magma Spray, these kind of 1 mana deal 2 exile style effects. This one has the upside of scaling to do 3 as well. This could also be something reasonable in a format like Explorer or Pioneer, where in like the Catavan decks, you have a lot of incidental artifacts. You get the sack effect, and it scales to deal 3 damage, so it can hit like opponents' Mayhem Devils or a Greasefang, something of that nature, as opposed to, say, something that would normally only deal 2. And then lastly, this was spoiled by Prince of Biel-Tan. We are getting Blood Moon into Historic. So there's the enchantment sheets. You got like Greater Auramancy, Doubling Season, a whole bunch of cards, and Blood Moon will be coming to the format. Sneak Attack was also showed, but I couldn't get a snapshot in time. So we can do potentially sneak attack shenanigans, sneaking in like big Eldrazi's. But Blood Moon is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out in terms of punishing very aggressive mana bases. So this is a really interesting card to see kind of in the format. So there's spoilers coming in and out. Let me know what you're excited to play. There was some Commander stuff that came out as well. But these are some of like the big cards that I saw that I wanted to share with you today. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.